Okay there, so I've been promising you guys I would try and run through as much of my Scion XB lift build as possible here. So working on a 2015 5-speed manual. I've pieced together basically the entire lift kit myself, so I'm going to walk you through a little bit about what I did here, and hopefully if somebody's looking to do this will be helpful. Okay, so I can start with the starting at the back. I'm going to work my way forward here, what we did. Strut extenders. So really simple here. Just took a piece of pipe, I think a hole saw, cut some 1/2 inch, weld it all together. These guys are 4.5 inches. My goal on this build was to lift the thing about 4 inches totally. I have Gen 2 springs in it right now, which is bringing it up about 1.5 inches. And then everything else here is designed to take it up about another 2.5 inches. So with that, the rear axle, if you drop it at 4 inches, swings so far forward that you're actually rubbing the front of your back tires on the back or on the front of the wheel well in the back. So you really need to change the pivot point of the rear axle. So I'll show you what we did there too. The other thing is the shocks are going to be kind of maxed out. So really basic shock extender. The shock just goes right through the bottom there. This bolts in where the existing shock is up top, and you just have a new mount point lower down. So really simple. These guys are really rudimentary, but they're ugly looking but strong, so they should be good. That's kind of the theme for this whole build. The rear shock, I guess what you call is like the extender part, or the spring mount aspect. I've seen a lot of guys do these in metal. Thought about that, but if ever I can get away with doing something off the shelf, I'm going to. So I'm going to try this. I don't know how long this is going to hold up for, but we're going to give it a go. So what this is marine rollers off a trailer. If you look at these are 3 inches. They have a divot on either side. They have a plastic core in the middle to give it some rigidity. And this actually fits really well over the back of the on the axle part where the rear spring would normally kind of sit. There's a little bulbous part there, so that sits really well over top and actually puts this exactly where it needs to be. This is another part of a trailer component, and as you can see, it's actually just cut in half here. I believe it's a 4-inch kind of thing. Same thing. This is all heavy-duty rubber designed for really, being a trailer with a boat bouncing on it. So I figured as a spring mount, it's going to work pretty well. We'll give it a go. And it turns out this thing fits in there really well. So it takes some wedging and then it seats right in. So what you can see as I did here is that's the whole setup. So this is just going to go back, the spring mounts right over top, and then you run a bolt all the way through to the bottom. This is a 1/2 inch bolt. It is 6 inches, so a 6-inch 1/2 inch. All the bolts I used are either grade 8 or 10.9 if they're metric, so the highest grade, well, not the highest, but pretty high grade stuff. And what I also did is these metal spacers here are the insets from part of the front strut mounts. So I had my buddy water jet these parts out and happened to make these and cut them out perfectly with a 1/2 inch in there, so I had 1/2 inch giant spacers built, cut down the amount of stuff. So you see that just kind of slides right through. And there is a plastic housing that runs the full length here. So it gives it some rigidity. So I'm gonna give this a go, see how it holds up. And yeah, I'll keep you guys posted. I suspect it'll work, but I don't know for how long. Eventually it'll probably break down. So as long as you keep an eye on it, these things are like $4. So I figured this was a super inexpensive and simple way to do it. All you gotta do is cut one piece in half, and then the rest is just basically over the counter stuff. You could just use normal washers for this. It'll work too. So those are the lower part of the rear springs connecting between where the axle sits and kind of the whole swinging rear axle and the spring to give it an extra. It's going to give it about 3 inches again. So we'll see how that nets out. It's shaping out that the rear might be a tiny bit higher than the front. So whatever, little slant forward is going to look cool. So shock extender towers, and then the spring mounts to the bottom rear springs.